Part 40. Online games, I really don't want to have unlimited fusion. Author, 7 years. Chapter 391. At this time, in the palace of the Lord of Dragon City, the kings of the 7 principalities of the human race, the dwarf Gushan King, the elf queen, the beast saint, the Titan King, Yunfei Zunlong, and the half-awake fox all gathered together and looked at Suchen, who was sitting on the throne. The atmosphere is solemn. Commander, the armies of the 6 camps, totaling 270 million people, have surrounded the north, west and south of our commercial principality. Yunfei said solemnly. Among them, there are a total of 20 million forces from the 6 realms, a total of 250 million players, and various engineering equipment. Our NPC army totals 9.3 million, including 5 million from the 7 principalities of the human race, 600,000 from the dwarves, 1.7 million from the elves, 2 million from the orcs, and 1,000 from the titans. The total number of players in our army is 460,000. Among them, there are 20,000 elite players, 180,000 main players, and the rest are ordinary players. From the perspective of military strength alone, our army is at an absolute disadvantage. Listening to Yunfei's statistics, everyone was silent. Especially the 6 major principalities of the human race that had been destroyed were even more miserable. When the strategy of shrinking the defense line was agreed upon, the war was at a high level. But after becoming the king of subjugation, he still remains. It is inevitable to feel sad. The orcs and elves are much more single. Firstly, the beast god of the orcs and the 2 elf gods of the elves have become Suchen's favorites. Secondly, these 2 major races have announced that be loyal to Suchen. Even if Suchen asked them to move their family overseas, he would not hesitate. But the good news is that we have no natural enemies on the endless sea. Ling Shuang, the 3rd princess of Hai Long, has surrendered 2 of the 4 pirate leaders. Even if nothing can be done, we can ensure that the escape route at sea is unobstructed. As if to relieve the overly solemn atmosphere in the hall, Yunfei said with a smile. However, the effect was not good. After all, no matter the human race, the beast race, the elves, or the dwarves, they have all been multiplying on the divine continent for millions of years. No one is willing to leave the mainland and go to the vast endless sea. Even the Titan King, who has always been fearless, showed resistance when he mentioned the endless sea. Seeing this scene, Suchen shook his head and laughed. It was also time to show his respect to the endless sea. It's time for everyone to show their cards, so that everyone is still in the dark and their morale is low. Suchen gently knocked on the table and saw that everyone was looking at him, pointed around and said, "You know, here, where is it?" Except for the Titan King, Yunfei and others, everyone was stunned. The elf queen looked thoughtful. "Brother Junlin, isn't this, your dragon city?" Balin, the dwarf king of Gushan, said doubtfully. Suchen smiled and stopped playing riddles with everyone. "This is indeed Dragon City, but outside Dragon City is my time and space fortress, or a huge, floating city." Time and space fortress? Floating city, everyone was shocked. To put it simply, my time and space fortress can resist god-level attacks, and it can also carry tens of millions of people. They can come and go freely, and no one can track it. If the next war fails, the orcs, elves, and dwarves can all use this time and space fortress to preserve their strength. Wow! Everyone was surprised and happy when they heard Suchen's words. Balin, the dwarf king of Gushan, suddenly shouted, startling everyone. "I remembered. The ancestor Muraden once mentioned that in ancient times there was a magical fortress that could regulate internal time and space and also resist external attacks. Could it be that it was the time and space fortress of the King's Landing brothers? This is an ancient artifact that even the gods and demons of the 6 realms have never possessed." Balin, the king of Gushan, confirmed Suchen's words, and everyone was even more overjoyed. Then, can't we be invincible? Even if you lose the battle, you can just board the fort and leave, and wait for an opportunity to take action after you regain your strength, the saint goddess of the beast tribe said excitedly. However, the kings of the 7 major principalities of the human race heard another meaning from Suchen's words. The king of the chariot and cavalry principality Huan Madun tentatively said, Commander Junlin, if the war is lost, can we, the 7 principalities, ride together in your time and space fortress? The kings of the other 6 principalities also looked at Suchen eagerly. The latter smiled. Well, it's theoretically possible. But, the orcs, elves, and dwarves all swore allegiance to me after all. Suchen just finished speaking. Anna, the king of the merchant principality, first knelt down on one knee and said, I, the king of the merchant principality Anna Kultiras, hereby swear an oath in the name of the past kings. The merchant principality will be loyal to the Lord of Kings Landing from generation to generation and will never break my oath. Anna. The king has already fallen in love with Suchen. Of course I won't miss this opportunity to get closer. Besides, the current commercial principality relies entirely on Suchen for its survival. Without Suchen, her commercial principality would have followed in the footsteps of the other 6 principalities and been destroyed by the armies of the 6 realms. There is one thing to learn. The kings of the Storm Principality, Warrior Principality, and Mage Principality who had surrendered to Dragon City also swore allegiance to Suchen. The remaining kings of the Ice and Snow Principality, the Chariot Principality and the High Mountain Principality looked at each other and smiled bitterly, knowing that this was Suchen taking the opportunity to completely conquer all the principalities of the human race. But now everyone is a grasshopper on a rope. For the sake of their own lives, they can only swear allegiance to Suchen. Next to them, Yun Fiyan and the other 3 smiled at each other and cast admiring glances at Suchen. The half-awakened fox sighed in his heart, Brother Junlin's move is so brilliant. Effortlessly, all 7 human kingdoms are in your hands. Suchen laughed loudly and said, we are all brothers and allies, why should we be so polite? Since you are the commander-in-chief of the 7 kingdoms, even if you are not loyal, won't you be allowed to climb this time and space fortress? King Anna shook her head and chuckled, and her understanding of Suchen seemed to have improved. The kings of the other 6 principalities were all smiling. MMP. You still behave well after getting a bargain. Now they are all yours, and it doesn't matter what you say. But when they thought that there was such a perfect time and space fortress behind them, everyone suddenly felt at ease. I was about to take this opportunity to tell everyone about the next tactical arrangements. At this moment, Suchen suddenly felt an inexplicable sense of crisis in his heart. Could it be that the 6 realms camp had deployed some terrifying weapon? The agent forces of the 6 realms are deeply rooted in the divine continent and have a profound foundation. Moreover, at this time, the 5 independent camp tribes are gathered in a small place like the commercial principality. If the other party really prepares some big killer weapon, I am afraid that all the 5 tribes can be killed at once. A pot is served. Thinking of this, Suchen became even more wary. After thinking about it, he took out a crystal ball with black magic power surging inside. It turned out to be the one who killed the 3 sea gods in the sea near Naga Imperial City before. The artifact Solomon Crystal Ball obtained by Sea Demon Soul Eater. The crystal ball has stored more than 700 points of magic power. It is just right to use this crystal ball to find out what the 6 realms camp is preparing. Online games, I really don't want to have unlimited fusion. Author, 7 years. Chapter 392. This is the first time Suchen has used this artifact. Now activate Solomon's crystal ball. The 737.6 magic points stored in it began to flow away at a rate of 1 point per second. At the same time, a huge virtual map of the divine continent and the endless sea appeared in front of Suchen. And as Suchen's thoughts moved, the virtual map quickly enlarged the map around the commercial principality and presented it in front of Suchen's eyes. The perspective of the map is a real-time perspective from a high altitude. The dark shadows on the ground that surrounded the commercial principality for most of the circle were exactly the 270 million troops of the six realms on display. Suchen even faintly heard the roaring shouts of more than 200 million people. Apparently the six realms camp is mobilizing before the war. Let me go, this Solomon crystal ball is so awesome. Can even the sound be presented in front of me in real time? Suchen chose the most crowded place in the shadow and focused on the map. Zoom in, zoom in, zoom in again. Soon, tens of thousands of neatly arranged tanks, siege vehicles, movable artillery, and even magic cannons appeared. They all appeared in front of Suchen, and he could see them all clearly. Even the excited chatter of the players standing next to these siege equipment could be clearly heard. So cool. It's been 10 years since I started playing games in junior high school, and this is the first time I've seen such a big war scene. The stupid independent camp, the stupid Dragon City, and the stupid King's Landing have all been destroyed by us in just a few hours, and now they are all trapped in a small principality. Hey, let me tell you, we shouldn't be preparing for war here, we should directly pursue the victory and settle the situation in one fell swoop. Why are you so anxious? Boss, they have a reason to organize our army. What's more, do you think we have the final say whether to attack or not? Didn't you see that those NPCs didn't move? Hey, haven't you heard a rumor about the elementary school student who scolded King's Landing? Even if the independent camp is destroyed, with the strength of the King's Landing boss, he can still kill anyone in an instant, and he can kill the city and kill the gods unstoppably. If the killing god hears you, haha. Listen, what if you hear? Can he still be willing to let go of his identity and kill me, a little soldier? Besides, he is not a god, so he can still hear me scolding him. Cut. Suchen laughed. He immediately stopped wasting the magic power of the crystal ball on these cannon fodder. He changed his perspective and searched for the army of NPCs from the Six Realms camp. His eyes quickly patrolled the battlefield, and soon he locked onto a small building next to the commercial principality. Town. The main reason is that thousands of NPC soldiers from the major church forces of the Six Realms have gathered here. The forces are not only diverse, but also each has a powerful aura. Suchen continued to search quickly in the town for a while, and the virtual map in front of him was very bright. We flashed to the meeting hall of the town. Sure enough, dozens of elders from major churches gathered in such a small place to discuss matters. Among them, Douglas, the holy son of the Light Church, Sylvia, the leader of the Dark Temple, Xiantiandeo familiar faces such as Li Changfeng, the elder of the sect, Ao Kishang, the saint of the Jade Dragon Temple, Asmod, the great elder of the Solomon sect, are also on the list. Among them, even the godson of the Bliss sect Bliss Jingkong, who has always lived in simplicity, he was also wearing a bright yellow cassock and was among them. In addition, there were dozens of great elders from the other six realms who were major gods in the divine continent, standing on both sides. How about it? Your Church of Light's great prophecy can target King's Landing or his Dragon City. Ao Kishang, the saint of the Jade Dragon Temple, said coldly. Holy Son Douglas slowly shook his head. The Pope said that his prophecy was separated by some extremely powerful time and space barrier. Even if the Lord of Light is called upon, Dragon City cannot be locked. Similarly, that King's Landing seems to be blocked by this kind of time and space protected by a diaphragm, it cannot be locked or predicted. All the great elders of various religions frowned. The core of the free and independent camp is Dragon City. The core of Dragon City is Junlin. If neither of these two can be locked, it will be difficult for us to win all the victories in one battle. Yes, in this case, the void annihilation that we have prepared with all the strength of the church will have no use. This is a top-notch divine spell that can seriously injure or even kill even the Lord God, and can even split the entire divine continent. SHH. Suddenly, the godson of the Paradise sect Bliss Jingkong suddenly made a silent gesture. His originally kind-hearted look suddenly became sharp. He looked around, and finally looked at Suchen's peeping perspective. Huh? This guy can sense my prying eyes. Suchen was surprised and doubtful. What's wrong? Jade Dragon Temple Saint Ao Kishang asked in a low voice. Bliss Pure Sky looked at Suchen's perspective several times with a somewhat confused face, and said solemnly, I seem to have sensed some kind of spying, but I can't determine the source of this spying. Everyone's expressions changed. Could it be that Junlin is spying on us? You can find it even if you hide here. Is there such a godly person? Are we too sensitive? Asmod, the great elder of the Solomon sect, said it doesn't matter, even if he finds us, he can't kill us. Humph, our real bodies remain in various places, but what appears here is just a shadow. It's just that guy is indeed evil. We would rather believe him than believe him. It's better not to say anything that can't be said. At this moment, a group of great elders from various religions began to discuss the next war. They all used ordinary siege strategies. They never mentioned the void annihilation magical skill mentioned before. Suchen frowned slightly. Unexpectedly, these guys are so wary of him now. Originally, he wanted to take this opportunity to cast a drop of forbidden tears of God in this small town and send these high-ranking agents of the six realms back to the altar in advance. Unexpectedly, all of them were discussing matters in shadow. No wonder the auras he sensed on these people were not as powerful as the judgment army on duty outside. However, the sense of crisis he suddenly sensed before should have come out. Let's focus on this top magic void annihilation. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Online games, I really don't want to have unlimited fusion. Author, 7 years. Chapter 393. Seeing that the magic power in the Solomon crystal ball has been consumed nearly 200 points. The equivalent of more than 3 minutes has passed. At that moment, Suchen closed the crystal ball and sat on a chair, concentrating on his thoughts. Even the Lord God can be seriously injured or even killed, and even the divine continent can be cracked. If this void annihilation really has such power, then I really have to be careful. After all, even the time and space fortress with the strongest defense currently only has high-level God-level defense. Suchen didn't know how powerful this so-called top magic void annihilation was. So don't dare to be careless. Fortunately, we know the opponent's trump card in advance. When the time comes, we only need to be careful and use the equipment attribute imperial power of the artifact Unparalleled Crown in advance to store the opponent's void annihilation. Hehe, when the time comes, if you find another opportunity to return this top-notch magic, it will feel like, task, it must be very satisfying. Suchen, who had thought about the countermeasures, found that the sense of crisis in his heart had also disappeared. He rubbed the Solomon crystal ball in his hand and felt a little emotional. The function of this thing is really too powerful. It is simply a full-scale function. Map cheating device. You can see wherever you want in the entire divine continent, including the endless sea, no matter how big or small it is, unimpeded. No wonder that Sea Demon Soul Eater is such a precious artifact. It's hard to say that this guy didn't use this. I spied on the Naga Queen taking a bath. After all, the picture and sound of this thing are so clear that you can even sense the breath of the other person. It's almost immersive. Well, it's just a bit vulgar. But I like it. In the Six Worlds camp, unlike the excited ordinary players, at this moment, all the elite players in the 20-nation alliance, as well as the senior officials and heads of the guilds, became more solemn and nervous. Like the great elders of the forces of the Six Realms, the heads of the guilds of the 20-nation alliance also used virtual projection to gather together for meetings. All the major NPC forces in the Six Realms camp have issued warnings to us. This time, the free and independent camp is likely to use up all the tiers of God inventory in the 7 principalities of the human race in this battle. After all, this thing is powerful enough to kill even gods and demons. Therefore, we'd better wear enough resurrection orders and resurrection scrolls. On the podium of the parliament, the war overlord said in a deep voice. All the guild leaders and government personnel nodded solemnly. A government employee of the small RD country suggested the price of resurrection scrolls on the market is too high now, and there is a price but no market, and we do not have the channels through which agents from the 6 realms can obtain resurrection orders. Can you please share some resurrection orders and resurrection scrolls for us to use? Some other small countries or weaker guild minds have also expressed their bitterness. As early as yesterday, the 6 realms agent forces issued such a warning to the major top guilds. These top guilds took advantage of the profit to immediately, so I searched out all the resurrection scrolls on the market. As a result, a resurrection scroll now costs tens of thousands of gold coins, and it is still priceless. When these small countries and guilds who got the news late reacted, they couldn't buy it even if they wanted to. Now these guilds all hope to be like war overlord top guilds like Sakura Purgatory can allocate some resources to them. Upon hearing this request, the faces of the war overlord, Kuroda Yufu, and others turned dark. On the podium, the war overlord made a grand statement. In summary, even in the midst of the war, the landlords had no food left. Actually, we have another choice. Whip of God Alexander, the leader of the guild, stood up and said, "We can stock up on a group of priests with resurrection skills at a nearby safe location in advance. At the same time, we have set up teleportation arrays at these locations so that when we need them, we can immediately reach the battlefield and resurrect the elites and main players who died in the battle. In this way, everyone's demand for resurrection items can be greatly reduced." Hearing Alexander's proposal, everyone nodded. What a great idea! Economical and practical. It is best to gather all the priests in our guild who have resurrection skills, and then set up teleportation points around the commercial principality, one-to-many points, and wherever there is a situation, we can concentrate and deal with it quickly. This is on a battlefield where fighter planes are fleeting. Crucial. Yes, not bad. Just as the atmosphere in the conference hall gradually became more relaxed, Kuroda Yufu suddenly stood up and said solemnly, "Do you remember that in the last battle in Stormwind City, everyone killed by King's Landing, whether NPC or us, had a mark on their body after death? Prohibited resurrection status? And this state lasted for an hour before disappearing." The words of Kuroda Iter made the atmosphere in the conference hall solemn again. The war overlord stared at Kuroda Iter and said, "You mean, King's Landing has the means to suppress our resurrection?" Kuroda's charioteer nodded and said, "Not bad. However, what is certain with a high probability is that this method is probably only available to Junlin himself, or even just a weapon enchantment method. After all, prohibiting resurrection for 1 hour is not a simple thing. It is absolutely impossible to equip it on a large scale for its allies or subordinates. What do you want to say in the end?" Alexander frowned. Kuroda Yufu smiled. "What I want to say is that after the war begins, if King's Landing goes to war, we'd better avoid this murderous god, and even avoid his titan subordinates. We only need to concentrate on dealing with the guilds of the independent camp and ordinary NPC warriors. The rest can be left to the NPCs of the 6 realms." "Agree. As it should be." Everyone agreed. Only the war overlord on the podium sneered in his heart. These people think too simply of the NPCs from the 6 realms. If you want to drive away tigers and devour wolves, why don't those NPCs want to use you as a stepping stone and cannon fodder? Just when everyone was busy making final preparations before the war, a big red server-wide announcement suddenly floated in front of everyone. Ding! Server-wide announcement. The epic battle is about to begin. The system releases total war contribution points ranking list. During the battle of all players, the system integrates all factors and automatically determines each player's contribution points in the war. At the same time, contribution points are open to redeem various epic, legendary, holy, demigod and even god-level equipment and skills. The person with the highest contribution points at the same time will receive an additional reward of qualification star level *100, and a godhead. Online games, I really don't want to have unlimited fusion. Author, 7 years. Chapter 394. Wow! As soon as this announcement came out, billions of players across the server are in an uproar. I'm in a big hole. Can contribution points be exchanged for artifacts and magical skills? Wow! Why haven't I successfully changed my job yet? I also want to join the war, and I also want the artifact. Wake up upstairs, you haven't left Novice Village yet. Contributing the first qualification will directly reward you with 100 stars. Isn't that the attribute points gained from upgrading a level, which is equivalent to someone else's 20th level up? This reward is so perverted. Godhead. In other words, the person who contributed the most was directly made a god after the war. Those players who have already participated in the war are even more excited. Especially those players from the Six Realms camp who are sure that they will win are gearing up, eager to kill the commercial principality now, and their contribution points will soar. They are in the parliament when the war overlords and others saw this announcement, their eyes also brightened. 100-star qualification? Godhead reward. In this battle, our Six Realms camp must win. Whoever becomes a god in a battle will definitely be my war overlord. I, Kuroda Yufu, deserve to be number 1 on this list. I, the Big H-Bang country, want the top spot. For a time, the leaders of the major guilds who had originally planned to retain some strength became eager to fight. For this 100-star qualification and this godhead, no matter how much resources and strength we invest, we must win the first place on the list. Especially those 30 people who briefly experienced the power of gods and demons in the general platform flag opening competition, are bound to win the godhead on the announcement. Even on the side of the free and independent camp, players from the 3 major guilds in Dragon City are all looking enthusiastically. After all, even if you don't get the first place on the list, as long as you live enough to contribute points and redeem those powerful equipment and skills, it's enough. Not to mention artifacts, even if you exchange it for an epic or legendary piece of equipment, it would be incredible. You know, at this stage, dark gold equipment can only be owned by high-end players. Among all the players in the server, only Suchen was not interested in this announcement at all. Equipment. He is already covered with semi-divine weapons, and even the divine weapons have as many as 7. There are 9 more god-level skills. 2 of them even reached the general level. Qualifications. His current qualification has reached the terrifying 1410 stars, and his level has reached the peak of the current midterm game data, and there is no way to upgrade. The 100-star qualification is just the icing on the cake. As for the godhead that was awarded, this thing is usually used by Suchen to fuse god-level equipment and skills. It is no different from the Heart of Divine Power in use. Not to mention that he now possesses the artifact Doubting. There will be a battle between the 2 camps later, and I wonder how many godheads can be plundered with this artifact. Not long after this announcement was made. Woohoo! From the north, west and south around the commercial principality, the thundering horns sounded almost simultaneously. The armies of the 6 realms finally began to launch a general offensive. Array! Prepare for war. On the side of the free and independent camp, Yun Fi, as the commander-in-chief, shouted loudly in the command channel. The orcs, elves, humans, and dwarves who stood next to her immediately used Yun Fi's instructions as dwarves. The 1,000-mile transmission tube was transmitted to the war camps of all the front lines. For a time, on the land of 100 kilometers around the royal city of the commercial Duke. A total of 9.3 million soldiers from the 4 tribes of the independent camp came out and lined up neatly in front of the formation. With all ethnic groups, each country is a unit. Warriors are in front, cavalry protects the 2 wings, archers are behind, and mages are among them. Behind the battle formation, there are flying cavalry from 4 races waiting quietly. To the north of the royal city, are the elite warriors of the 7 principalities of the human race and the madmen of the warrior principality. On the 2 wings are the world-famous majestic cavalry of the chariot and cavalry principality. At the rear are the elite archers from various countries and the powerful magicians and priests of the mage principality. The unique giant eagle cavalry and griffin cavalry of the Alpine Principality and Ice and Snow Principality are quietly prostrate. On the hillside behind, waiting for instructions. The human race has the largest number of warriors, 5 million. But the overall strength is weaker. Yunfiian also assigned the dwarf warriors to the human race. The dwarf Mad War and the dwarf Sheep Cavalry are also on the same side. A powerful force. Each of these warriors is at least level 70 or above. Their overall combat power is comparable to that of elite guild players. To the west of the royal city, there are 2 million warriors from various tribes of the orcs. The orcs have physical limitations and talents. Mostly warriors and wild warriors. The ones who acted as shields before the fight were the Tauren warriors and elephant warriors. Various beast clans such as Leopard Clan, Lion Clan, Wolf Clan, and Tiger Clan followed closely behind. Some of the beast clans' Clan Kuangjan is good at javelin, and temporarily acts as a long-range physical unit behind the warrior array. Fox Clan, White Bull Clan priests and wizards are closely surrounded by all Orc Clan warriors. These priests and wizards are usually highly respected among the Orc Clan. The elders of each tribe have various combat buffs, treatments, soul chains, and even resurrection witchcraft, which are the guarantee of the continued combat effectiveness of the orcs. At the same time, 300,000 agile and combat-savvy wolf cavalry are responsible for roaming and guarding the 2 wings. The flight of the orcs. There are various types of cavalry, including giant bat cavalry, winged beast cavalry, iron falcon cavalry, etc., with a variety of fire, poison, and slow attack attributes. At this moment, they are all staying behind the army, waiting to attack. In the south of the royal city, there are 1.7 million elves. Warriors. Because the elves are physically weaker. Yunfiian assigned all the main battles, elite shield battles, and mad battles among the players to the elves. Don't underestimate these elites and elites from the 3 major guilds in Dragon City. Main battle players. After experiencing several wars, these players in Dragon City are far ahead of other players in the world in terms of level, equipment, and technology. Compared with NPC warriors of level 70 and 80, it is not a waste of money. There is a slight loss in terms of quantity. However, the endless variety of props available to players are enough to make up for this disadvantage. Behind the warriors are the powerful elite archers and elite mages of the elves. These 2 arms are the best among the 4 major races in terms of attack power. Especially the wizards of the elves, mainly high-level and epic-level magicians, and there are also many legendary-level and even demigod-level elders. If you really want to activate it, the forbidden spell can be fired continuously for an hour. In addition, they are good at psychic skills. There are also many high-level elf priests who specialize in fire, healing, resurrection and elf war songs. The cavalry is composed of Thunder Rhinoceros Cavalry, War Lion Cavalry and Mammoth Cavalry from the 3 major guilds in Dragon City. As for the flying cavalry, they include the elves' own Horned Eagle Knights, as well as Dragon City's cloud-chasing Dragon Eagle Cavalry and Iron-Winged Golden Eagle Cavalry. In addition, sufficient long-range artillery is distributed on all fronts of the 4 major races. Made up of dwarves and players. all improved versions of light mountain rapid-fire artillery, with a range of 3,000 meters and an attack point of 3,000 points. They are superior to all the sophisticated artillery of players from the Six Realms. Finally, 1,000 Saint-level and semi-god-level young titans served as a combat readiness force and were on the edge of the royal city. No matter which front, north, west, or south, the battle is tight, these big titans will immediately rush to support. The reason why the four tribes are arranged separately. It's not that Suchen and Yunfeiyan don't want them to mix together and leverage their respective strengths and advantages. Rather, the warriors of these races have their own coordination and familiarity. Forcibly disrupting and mixing them will cause them to encounter various situations during combat. The current formation method is the optimal result after discussions between Yunfeiyan and various tribes. Of course, the above are all conventional forces of the free and independent camp. The time and space fortress, which serves as a deterrent and decisive force, is quietly suspended above the royal city of the commercial prince, looking down at the audience. Online games, I really don't want to have unlimited fusion. Author, 7 years. Chapter 395. In the Time and Space Fortress. 10,000 demigod-level god-killing towers are waiting to be fed. Lu Yuanzong, the number one god general in heaven, held his beloved halberd and wiped it over and over again. Finally, we can fight again, my sky-splitting divine halberd is already a little hungry and thirsty. Suchen listened to the deafening sound of horns and shouts of death below. Eyes flashing. The war finally started. Immediately summon the clone umbrella girl Sakura and let her control the entire time and space fortress. He himself came to Yunfeiyan's side of the Dragon City Guild building, and from time to time used the Solomon crystal ball to quickly check the information on the Six Realms camp and provide Yunfeiyan with battlefield intelligence. Well, now that we have a fully open map cheating device, we have to make the best use of it. Boom, 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 on the earth. The war drums sound. A vanguard army composed of 30 million players and 3 million ordinary six-realm agent NPCs, carrying various types of tanks, artillery and other mobile engineering equipment, pressed on the royal city of the merchant prince. There are tens of thousands of people, all over the mountains and plains. But if it reaches 1 million, 10 million, 30 million, it's really overwhelming. Everywhere you look, there are enemies from the Six Realms camp. The earth is rumbling. Stand up a shield. On the independent camp side, tens of thousands of elites, main battle player shield war, and hundreds of thousands of elite heavy armored infantrymen stood at the front of the battlefield. As the commander shouted, they all smashed their war shields to the ground. War. The sharp point at the bottom of the shield penetrated deeply into the earth, causing mud to splash. A player and NPC looked through the gap between the shields at the dark enemies approaching in the distance, almost covering the entire skyline. Full. Everyone became nervous involuntarily, and their breathing gradually became heavier. Seeing this scene, thousands of Fire Phoenix Guild female shield fighters screamed Dragon City. Fight to the death. This familiar roar immediately made all the players of the three major guilds in Dragon City excited. The past of several battles involving millions or tens of millions of people in Dragon City passed before my eyes. Even if there are tens of thousands of enemy troops, even if gods and demons come to the world, who are the people of Longcheng afraid of? Hundreds of thousands of players from the three major guilds in Dragon City shouted angrily, "Fight to the death! Fight to the death! Fight to the death!" Even the nanny priests, like the cute little white rabbit standing in the back, blushed and raised their staffs in their hands and roared. This scene also infected countless human, elven, dwarf and orc NPC warriors. He even started shouting, "Fight to the death!" 9 million people roared "Fight to the death" in unison, and the sound shook the sky. Under such a roar, even the most timid person will be stimulated to bursting with passion. The tension, fear, and panic of the impending war were instantly gone. The lord of Jingtao City Shi Yi was originally a powerful level 100 warrior. At this moment, he was also standing with the Turan and the elephant tribe as human shields, blocking the front of the tribe with their flesh and blood. Although Shi Yi is the lord of a city, he is not qualified to participate in the meeting of Su Chen and others, so he does not know whether his side will win this battle. Thinking that the slightly immature Junlin brother who handed over tasks to him in the past has now become the ancestor of their beast clan and the commander of the army. Such a fateful meeting made him feel amazing. Looking at the overwhelming enemy troops and listening to the roars of his own warriors from all races in the distance, he held a giant axe in his hand and shouted angrily for King's Landing. For the orcs. Fight to the death. Roar. Fight to the death. Fight to the death. Fight to the death. The orcs are born with the power of blood and courage. When they roared at this time, they were even more majestic. For a time, the momentum of tens of millions of troops from the six realms was overwhelmed by the roars of 9 million people from the independent camp. A stagnation. In the live broadcast rooms of all major platforms. When the commentators saw this scene, they shouted excitedly, the free and independent camp is surrounded on three sides, with the vast endless sea behind them. This is their real last stand. Unexpectedly, surrounded by dozens of times the military strength, they can still survive with such an outburst of blood. It seems that this war will not end easily. Well, this is just the first wave of tentative attacks. Neither side has played their trump cards. What we in the Six Realms camp need to be wary of is the opponent's rapid-fire artillery attack. Yes. Engineering equipment is the weak point of our Six Realms camp. After all this time, we have only increased the range of sophisticated artillery from 1,000 meters to 1,500 meters, but in the independent camp, the rapid-fire artillery with a range of 3,000 meters has an absolute advantage. In fact, don't worry too much. There are too many troops from our Six Realms camp. They rush over overwhelmingly, and no matter how many artillery pieces the opponent has, they can't kill them all. As long as you rush in front of the opponent, the artillery of the independent camp is useless. Huh? Look. The Six Realms camp took the lead in dispatching flying cavalry. The number is probably not tens of thousands, this attack direction, hiss. It turned out to be to destroy the opponent's artillery position. On the screen, like dark clouds, tens of thousands of giant eagles, griffins, and other flying cavalry roared past the charging army on the ground. They took the lead in rushing to the front of the independent camp's army. Yun Fiyan sneered and immediately dispatched his own flying cavalry. Cavalry. Thanks to Su Chen's advance mention of several big pet mount explosion points, the number of flying cavalry from the three major guilds in Dragon City has reached more than 10,000. In addition to the elf tribe's horned eagle flying cavalry and the human tribe's giant eagles, griffin flying cavalry and flying cavalry such as the orc giant bat cavalry, winged beast cavalry, iron falcon cavalry. The number is actually more than the flying cavalry in the Six Realms camp. Not good. Our Six Realms camp is actually weaker than the free and independent camp in terms of flying cavalry. The strategy of destroying the artillery positions of the independent camp in advance may fail. The war overlord, who had been paying attention to the situation on the battlefield, looked grim when he saw this scene. He said coldly, at the moment our tactic is to follow the orders of the elders of the six agent forces and consume the effective strength of the independent camp. Order 30,000 flying cavalry to launch a suicide attack. The more people injured, the higher the bonus. The commanders at all levels who received the order from the war overlord were all shocked. At the same time, he immediately understood his strategy. Since the Six Realms camp has an absolute advantage in terms of numbers, the independent camp's strength will be consumed. 10 million people from the Six Realms camp died, and I didn't feel bad at all. But with so many people dying in the independent camp, the species is extinct. However, the war overlord never expected this. His enemy was fighting him with a cheat device all over the map. At this moment, as the commander-in-chief of the independent camp, Yun Feiyan, Suchen also sat next to her. He holds a football-sized crystal ball in his hand, projecting an extremely realistic picture. In the picture, it was the cold shout of the war overlord. Holding the Solomon crystal ball, Suchen shrugged and said, "Look, the other party is seeking death, what should we do?" Yun Feiyan was also shocked and angry. She never expected that the other party would do this. Idea. If the other party succeeds, the Freedom and Independence Camp will inevitably suffer heavy casualties. Yun Feiyan's beautiful eyes flashed with cold light, and she said coldly, "Then use the dwarf's air burst bombs to blow him up." Suchen laughed loudly. "Well, with this momentum, he is indeed a member of my Su family." Yun Fei's noodles immediately glowed with red clouds, and her beautiful eyes rolled her eyes at him shyly and happily. She pinched Suchen secretly and whispered, "There's someone behind you. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Online games, I really don't want to have unlimited fusion." Author, 7 years. Chapter 396. Yun Feiyan did not rashly let his flying cavalry retreat. Instead, let them hover above the army of their own camp as bait. From the perspective of the war overlords, this seems to be a defensive posture adopted by the free and independent camp. How could he have thought that Suchen would have such a perverted cheating device as the Solomon crystal ball? There is no doubt that he is there at the moment. 30,000 giant eagle and griffin cavalry, armed with the latest high explosives and the best wishes of high bonuses, rushed towards the flying cavalry of the free and independent camp with red eyes. Some of them also rushed towards Suchen's artillery position. Obviously, the war overlord not only wants to destroy the flying cavalry of the independent camp. They also have to blow up the artillery positions here and put them out. Strange, why doesn't the independent camp go up to meet the enemy? The commander is too stupid. Passive defense will only put pressure on the army of his own camp. At that time, whatever the opponent throws in the air can kill a whole group of people. Haha, I guess I was frightened by such a huge battle among the 6 realms. After all, even in World War I and World War II, we never saw hundreds of millions of people fighting at the same time. In the live broadcast room, some commentators ridiculed. The live broadcast barrage was also one that looked down on the independent camp. The words "lie down and win" have filled the entire live broadcast screen, and the scene is full of joy. In the entire battlefield, only the war overlord, Kuroda Yufu and other old opponents who have fought with Suchen several times gradually feel something is wrong. With those the commentators are different. They will not think that the first player in the online game King of Gods will be a fool. On the contrary, they will analyze every move of Suchen for a long time before responding cautiously. Kuroda Ifu, Alexander and others came to the war next to the overlord. He held up the telescope and looked at it for a long time, and asked, "What does King's Landing want to do?" The war overlord shook his head in a deep voice, holding up a telescope and patrolling the battlefield in the distance. At the same time, he clicked on the real-time picture sent by the flying cavalry in front to watch the situation on the opponent's battlefield. Suddenly, an artillery in the opponent's artillery position shook. The angle, the muzzle of the gun pointed high and diagonally towards the sky. This scene made the war overlord's pupils shrink suddenly. Not good. Their artillery can actually fire anti-aircraft guns. As a modern person, we naturally understand the significance of anti-aircraft guns. Different from ordinary artillery, the biggest difference between anti-aircraft guns is that the shells it uses are air-burst bombs. Instead of solid iron balls or explosive shells that explode when they hit the ground. That is said that Suchen's artillery can bombard air units. But, why did they only fire one cannon? All flying cavalry, retreat. Immediately, ignoring the doubts in his heart, the war overlord roared loudly on the command channel. Unfortunately, it was already too late. 30,000 Giant Eagle and Griffin cavalry flew over the 3,000-meter artillery shooting range of the Free and Independent camp. At the same time, the Free and Independent camp, the flying cavalry circling beside them, actually fell to the ground one after another. The speed was actually faster than rising into the air to meet the enemy, as if they were afraid of something extremely terrifying. This scene further confirmed the war overlord's heart sense of crisis. Damn it, it turns out that these flying cavalry are just bait. My flying cavalry, my 30,000 flying cavalry. It seems to be to confirm the conjecture of the war overlord. The artillery that had been adjusted at a good angle let out a thundering roar under the control of the dwarf engineer. Boom, boom, boom. On the vast battlefield, 3 airburst bombs instantly rose into the air. The explosion range of these airburst bombs in the air reaches a radius of 10,000 meters. Although there are only 3 of them, the fire coverage can basically cover all the flying cavalry scattered by the opponent. Moreover, the damage power of this airburst bomb is also 50,000 points. A flying mount that is enough to sweep all players at this stage. And it is precisely because the explosion range of these airburst bombs is wide enough. Therefore, the accuracy requirements for aiming are not too high. At the same time, the dwarves' airburst bombs have magic excitation devices and sensors placed inside them. 3 airburst bombs took off. Under the observation and control of the dwarf engineer below, they approached the best position of the opponent's flying cavalry and immediately started to explode. Boom, boom, boom. In the cloudless sky, thunder suddenly sounded. In the vast void, 3 huge circular waves of flames with a radius of 10 kilometers exploded almost at the same time. This distance spans the vast space between the 6 Realms camp and the Free and Independent camp. Although the war overlord's 30,000 flying cavalry spread out widely enough, basically covering the opponent's 3 battlefields in the north, west and south. But how can one escape an airburst bomb with such a wide explosion range? 30,000 Giant Eagles and Griffin cavalry were instantly swallowed up by the terrifying waves of flames before they even had time to react. Ding. 6 Realms Camp Giant Eagle Flying Cavalry *11999 have been killed by you. Gain experience points *23.998 million. Ding. 6 Realms Camp Griffin Flying Cavalry *18,000 have been killed by you. Gain experience points *45 million. Thousands of miles in the sky. There were 30,000 flying cavalry in the 6 realms, and only 1 giant eagle cavalry was hanging at the end, barely able to escape the flames of the airburst bombs. Everyone was immediately frightened. Nearly 30,000 companions he was burned alive in front of him. The giant eagle was greatly frightened when he sat down. He rolled off the flying knight on his back, flapped his wings desperately and flew away into the distance. In the air, 3 huge explosion rings had not dissipated. The entire battlefield was already gone. There was dead silence. The eyes of War Overlord, Kuroda Iter, Alexander, and others were empty. In the live broadcast rooms of major platforms, all the commentators opened their mouths wide and were unable to speak. After the live broadcast barrage slowly passed over the screen full of Lie and Win, there was another, not a single barrage appeared. Immediately afterwards, there were loud cheers from the Freedom and Independence camp. Big win, big win, big win. The morale of the 9 million army was greatly boosted. However, Yun Fi-Ian's second order quickly sounded all rapid-fire artillery preparations. Calibrate 3,000 meters ahead. Boom, boom. On the north, west, and south sides, there are millions of cavalry troops from the 6th Realm Camp NPC forces. Ignoring the huge explosion in the air, they silently charge toward the Independent camp with murderous intent. Online games, I really don't want to have unlimited fusion. Author, 7 years. Chapter 397. These NPC cavalry armies. They are all level 70 Templar Knights, Necromancer Knights, Magic Armor Knights, etc. Behind them, an army of 30 million players followed. Riding various mounts, he could barely keep up with the NPC cavalry team in front. Although these players are afraid of the huge power of the independent camp's air-burst bombs. But with an army of 3 million NPCs attacking, I could barely suppress the fear in my heart. After the initial panic, under the urging of the commanders of each department, they followed the NPC closely. 33 million troops, with 11 million cavalry troops on each side, rushed towards the free and independent camp. As for the independent camp, there are only 9 million troops in total. Aerial view. The north, west and south fronts stretch for nearly 1,000 kilometers in total. A huge sea the front, which was composed purely of cavalry, quickly compressed inward. Wait until it approaches the 3,000-meter artillery range. Boom, 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 boom. Tens of thousands of rapid-fire artillery pieces let out a thundering roar at the same time. The ground shook violently at this moment. There was a continuous roar of artillery shells in the air. And in just a few seconds, it slammed into the NPC cavalry army at the front. Boom, boom, boom. A rapid-fire artillery with 3,000 points of damage cannot effectively damage these NPC cavalry with a health value of 100,000 points. It can only have a little harassment effect. However, Yunfei never thought about destroying the NPC army with just rapid-fire artillery. Her goal is to slightly slow down the opponent's cavalry charge, and at the same time, destroy the army of 30 million players behind them. Thanks to the excellent engineering capabilities of Dragon City and the dwarves, there are 30,000 rapid-fire artillery pieces deployed on the battlefield. Every 2 seconds, 10,000 artillery pieces launched a bombardment. Rapid-fire artillery strikes every 6 seconds. 30,000 rapid-fire artillery pieces formed a perfect continuous bombardment. Successfully separated the army of 30 million players in the rear from the NPC army in the front. Huge C. The glyph-shaped military front was suddenly divided into two by the artillery C character. Big and thick C. The words were bombarded by continuous artillery fire and could not advance even an inch. Small and thin C character, he ignored the artillery bombardment and rushed straight towards the shield warriors guarding the front of the array. Archers and magicians are ready. Players and cavalry of all races prepare. In shield battle, be careful to turn on strong shield when in contact. The impact will arrive in 10 seconds. 8 seconds. 5 seconds. Archers and magicians attack. 3 seconds. Turn on strong shield. Cavalry double team. Cut through these sons of bitches for me. Different commanders at all levels have different personalities and ways of speaking. But they all grasp the situation on the battlefield very accurately. Just when the 3 million NPC cavalry leaders of the 6th Realm camp arrived 30 meters in front of the formation, nearly 2 million long-range archers and magicians, under the command of the commander, launched a ready attack one after another. Suddenly, the sky was filled with arrows and various types of firewalls, flame snakes, ice arrows, and wind blades. Even the range attack skills such as Meteorite, Ice Rain, and Fire Dragon were all thrown out. Just when the opponent reached a distance of 10 to 20 meters from your own camp, the attack covered them. Suddenly, hundreds of thousands of NPC cavalry floated above their heads. There are continuous damage values of hundreds or hundreds. A few have caused thousands or even tens of thousands of damage. However, such high damage values are generally caused by elf mages and elf archers in the south. Although players currently it has reached level 50 or above, but generally it can only cause hundreds of damage to these NPC cavalry, and the maximum is only 1 or 2,000. This wave of attacks maimed hundreds of thousands of NPC cavalry, and tens of thousands of cavalry died on the spot. But just 1 second later, the NPC cavalry from the Six Realms camp came at high speed and silently charged towards the shield battle on the independent camp's side with their guns drawn. The shield battle of the strong shield and the roaring orc warriors started. He lowered his body again and faced the galloping cavalry with his shield and flesh and blood. Boom! The cavalry crashed into the heavy armored infantry. Some players with weaker equipment were killed instantly by the cavalry's spears in shield battles. Almost half of the shield battles he was directly knocked away by the NPC cavalry charging at high speed. Less than half of the shield fighters with better skills and equipment blocked the opponent's attack. With the blessing of the supersaturated milk volume of the priest from behind, they actually stabilized their figure and blood volume. On the orc side, the collision of the cavalry barely caused any fluctuations. The powerful and tall Tauren warriors and elephant warriors actually roared and punched the opponent's horse head. One punch he blew the head of a bone horse of an undead knight. Even if some Tauren warriors were shot through the chest by the opponent, they still acted like no one, pulling the opponent off the horse and blasting the hammer. The entire orc heavy armored infantry front, in 100 under the collision of thousands of NPC cavalry, they only retreated 2 or 3 meters before stabilizing the battle line. The cavalry that was forced to stop immediately became a target for these tough warriors. The wizards and priests from behind launched a series of attacks on the surrounding orc warriors' bloodthirsty technique. Attack increased by 30%. Attack speed increased by 30%. Defense decreased by 50%. Shi Yi, the lord of Jingtao City who had reached level 100, with the blessing of bloodthirsty technique, even used the huge red eyes in his hand. The axe was swung into an afterimage. Every time it danced, an NPC cavalry from the Six Realms camp must fall. On the north, west and south fronts, the western orc front was the most stable. The southern elven front had powerful elven archers and magicians. Now, after losing tens of thousands of players in the shield battle, the front was quickly stabilized. The human front in the north was the most dangerous. In several places, the opposite NPC cavalry even rushed all the way to the rear remote units and massacred them. In the end, they were still counting only with the desperate charge of thousands of elite players and elite human warriors and generals did they manage to hold onto the battle line. Once the battle line was stabilized, the advantage of the Six Realm camp's 3 million NPC cavalry was no longer there. The independent camp's own cavalry from both wings came over to outflank them. They roared with red eyes and formed arrow-shaped charge formations, attacking the enemy hard. Huge casualties began to appear among the armies of both sides. Fortunately, there are millions of priests in the independent camp, who are constantly increasing health and resurrecting. But the Six Realm camp's 3 million NPC cavalry also carry at least 2 resurrection orders. The two sides continued to fight in resurrection, death, and resurrection. The sky-shattering roars, shouts of death, and blood all over the ground seemed to turn the sky red. Online games, I really don't want to have unlimited fusion. Author, 7 years. Chapter 398. Both sides are furious. At this point, no one has any fear anymore. The only thought in my mind is to kill all the enemies in front of me. On the live broadcast platform, many commentators lost their voices when they saw this tragic scene. The barrage was dead silent. Among the billions of players watching the battle, even the eldest old man grew up in a peaceful era and had never seen such a real and brutal killing battlefield. On the battlefield, the cute little white rabbit, who kept adding blood to the soldiers in front, was already crying. But the staff in the little hand still kept waving. Those brothers and sisters who usually smiled with her and downloaded dungeons and completed tasks together were either lying in a pool of blood or roaring and fighting in the rain of blood. He was even shot through the chest by the Templar and lifted up in mid-air. He swung his broadsword to attack the Templar with his skills. However, whether it is Yun Fi Ian or War Overlord and others, they all know These brutal battles before our eyes are actually just the appetizer. Neither side has invested a truly powerful fighting force. Not even the main force was invested. Not to mention the signature sacrifice of the Six Realms camp, summoning gods and demons. Woo! Woohoo! There is still a fierce fighting here. On the other side of the Six Realms camp, a loud horn sounded again. It turned out that there was another army of 3 million NPCs, leading 30 million players and rushing over. This army of 3 million NPCs is also composed of level 70 Templar Knights, Undead Knights and other units. Among them, there are only a small number of more powerful Templar Knight Commanders, Necromancer Knight Commanders, Magic Armor Knight Commanders and other units. The number is not large, only 3,000. On a front that stretches nearly 1,000 kilometers, it is nothing. Even if they all sacrifice and summon demigods and semi-demon, they can be suppressed steadily with the help of the elders of the orcs, elves, the demigod-level ancient war trees, and even the titans who have not been dispatched. Inside the Dragon City God of War Guild building, Suchen quickly flipped through the real-time battlefield images mapped by the Solomon crystal ball from time to time. Frowning, looking for something. Even though he had used it very sparingly, he only had more than 300 points of magic power left at the beginning of more than 700 points. Yunfei paid attention to the battlefield situation and looked at Suchen. Is this a fueling tactic from the other side? Logically speaking, it shouldn't be. Is there any other trick? Yunfei couldn't help but ask. Suchen shook his head. Have no idea. Based on my understanding of these minions of the Six Realms, they will never use the current tactics for no reason, they must have a purpose. The intelligence of these NPCs is not inferior to ours. Yun Fei frowned and said, how about, use your modified Tears of God's Cry in advance to eliminate part of the NPC army. Suchen slowly shook his head. Now is not the time. These NPCs are now very cautious, and all armies use teleportation arrays to teleport from major cities to the battlefield. It is only transmitted when needed, and dispersed in major cities when not needed. Even if you use Tears of God now, you won't be able to kill many people, and at the same time it will scare off the enemy. Yunfei nodded, and immediately concentrated on commanding the battlefield. On the live broadcast platform, some commentators were also surprised by the Six Realms camp's troop dispatching strategy. We obviously have so many powerful troops and props, why not just launch a thunderous strike, descend on the gods and demons, and destroy the opponent in one fell swoop with the ultimate move? Maybe he was afraid of King's Landing, and his dragoons. After so many days, I don't know what size and strength his dragoons have developed now. Wrong, very wrong. You see, the top guild heads of War Overlord are all extremely calm now. It is obvious that they know the tactics and strategies of the NPCs in the Six Worlds camp. Otherwise, wouldn't it be stupid to throw tens of millions of players onto the battlefield and let the other side bomb them like we do now? I have a hunch, the Six Realms camp may be holding back a big move. No matter whether the Six Realms camp is holding back the ultimate move or not. The players who are being bombarded by the independent camp's rapid-fire artillery on the battlefield are in despair at this moment. 3,000 points of artillery damage is not enough for those NPC cavalry. It's nothing, but it's fatal to players. Even if the attributes of pet mounts are shared, half of the health will be gone with one shot. The key is this movable mountain rapid-fire artillery. Its attack range is not small, it is 100*100 meters of coverage. Under the supersaturated bombardment of the independent camp, no player could break out of the continuous barrage composed of 30,000 rapid-fire artillery pieces. In just a few minutes, Suchen reported that the number of kills had reached more than 4 million. The experience points in the experience storage tank are soaring all the way. It has now reached more than 50 billion. However, there is still a huge gap between the more than 1 trillion experience points required to upgrade all 90,000 golden dragon babies to level 100. It's not enough to gain such a huge amount of experience points by killing players. The focus still has to be on the NPC army in the Six Realms camp. Especially the opponent's high-end god demon level combat power. It would be even more exciting if the Six Realms could descend to the main god level and project them down. Killing one is equivalent to a full 100 billion experience points, and a dozen or so upgraded golden dragons are enough. Soon. The second wave of 3 million troops from the Six Realms camp broke through the rapid-fire artillery barrage and silently rushed towards the defense formation of the free and independent camp. At this time, half of the first wave of 3 million troops from the Six Realms were still fighting. At the same time, the Knight Commander of the 3006 Realms, halfway through the journey, recited the sacrificial spell on his galloping mount. Great God of Light! I am your most devout believer. I am willing to use my flesh and blood to carry 1/1000th of your tiny power to judge the darkness in the world. Come down. Seraph of Light. The great dark God. I am willing, come. Spirits. Come down. Devil. Come down. Because the battlefield is vast enough. A total of 3,000 demons and monsters with strength reaching the semi-god level came to the world one after another. Spread out and fly towards the independent camp. These semi-god level demons from the Six Realms, even though they are suppressed by the rules of the Divine Continent, still have up to 500,000 attack points and millions of health points. With a defense value of 10,000, it is not something ordinary players can break through. See this scene. The beast Saint Vulpix, the Great Wizard, the High Priest, the Elf Elders, the Ancient War Tree, and the Titans who had been waiting for a long time all came out one after another. I have been sleeping for thousands of years, and I have caught up with the battle between gods and demons. This is the honor of the ancient tree of war. Dozens of ancient semi-god level war trees hundreds of meters tall moved their thick roots and twisted branches, rushing towards the gods and demons of the Six Realms. That excitement is even crazier than the war-hungry Titan. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Online games, I really don't want to have unlimited fusion. Author, 7 years. Chapter 399. Although the number of demigod-level combat forces on Suchen's side was not as large as the 3,000 demigod-level demons opposite him. But because the combat power is not suppressed by the rules of the Divine Continent, it is several times or even 10 times that of the demons summoned by the Knight Captain's sacrifice. As soon as the two sides came into contact, the demigod-level power on Suchen's side killed everyone. The Titan King Norgenthal even fought against 10 double-winged seraphs by himself. 11 demigod-level elves used the elves' unique forbidden spell-level magic to even trap 106 realm demigod-level demons in one fell swoop. Under the leadership of Saint Vulpix, the great wizards and high priests of the beast race also made concessions in vain and restrained demons from the Six Realms that were several times their size. The ancient war tree is very violent. More than 50 ancient war trees actually used their branches as weapons to attack. The seemingly clumsy figure can actually throw flexible branches thousands of meters long. It was thrown out like an electric light, and it actually created space ripples in the air. The flexible branch twitched like this, and a demigod-level celestial demon exploded into blood mist in the air, without even the slightest ability to resist or parry. The key point is that each ancient war tree swings more than 30 branches. Some ancient war trees are even lucky enough to encounter 10 monsters from the Six Realms rushing towards them when they go out. In just 2 seconds, a pop, pop, pop sound was heard in the air. The 10 demons exploded and died instantly. As a result, the thousands of demons on the elf side did not dare to approach these powerful ancient war trees, and instead turned to attack the orcs and humans. Escape without a fight, shameless guy. but the behavior of the demons from the 6 realms obviously angered these ancient war trees. Do you look down on me if you don't fight with them, but with others? With the help of the elders of the elves, a short-distance space teleportation array was built in an instant. A head-to-head addicted to the ancient war tree of the war stepped into the teleportation array to support other races. On Suchen's side, continuous system kill prompts continued to sound. Ding. God Realm Seraph of Lightwings *6 has been killed by you. Gain experience points *60 million. Ding. The Ghost World Ghosts and Gods *9 have been killed by you. Gain experience points *90 million. Ding. The Demon World Demon God *5 has been killed by you. Gain experience points *50 million. Ding. Demon World. Because the Titans, Elves, and Orcs are all loyal to Suchen. The experience points gained from the demons from the 6 realms that these people killed naturally belong to Suchen. It's just weird. These 6 realms of semi-god level monsters actually didn't burst out blood of gods and demons. In other words, it originally exploded, but was absorbed and disappeared in mid-air. Seeing this scene, Suchen's pupils shrank suddenly. Immediately, he quickly flipped through the map image projected by the Solomon crystal ball. Soon, he discovered. On the battlefield where the cavalry and soldiers of both sides fought, the blood-stained ground was slowly absorbing the blood on the ground. Just when Suchen was in shock and doubt, Lu Yuanzong, the number 1 god in the heaven who has been waiting for a battle, sent a message to Suchen: Master, I feel the smell of the realm getting stronger and stronger. It's like what I saw before. It's the same as the blood realm space. Lu Yuanzong's reminder shocked Suchen. Blood realm space? What is this? Blood domain space is a space domain method commonly used in the ghost world and the demon world among the 6 realms. It can use the blood and evil spirit of the battlefield to build a huge domain space. It is mainly used to shield the influence of the rules of the divine continent and increase the density and strength of the gods and demons in the domain space, Lu Yuanzong explained. So that's it? In an instant, Suchen understood the reason why the 6 realms camp used the fueling tactic. It seems that it is at the expense of its own low-end combat power, and by the way, it is trying to cause the greatest damage to the independent camp as much as possible. The blood domain space is built with the blood and condensed evil spirit flowing from the battle between tens of millions or even hundreds of millions of people from the 2 camps. In order to allow more powerful and numerous gods and demons to descend on the battlefield and destroy the effective forces of the independent camp in one fell swoop. Even, led to the fortress of time and space, and even led Suchen to join the battle in person. In this way, the void annihilation they prepared can come out and destroy Suchen and the time and space fortress together. Ha, what a plan, Suchen sneered in his heart. It just so happens that my experience point gap is as high as trillions. You can increase the number and strength of the gods and demons. In this way, I can get more experience points to upgrade the golden dragon and obtain more blood of gods and demons. Come and upgrade God descends to earth, and seize more godhead to upgrade the god and demon dragon rider. But in this way, the 9 million troops and players of the 5 tribes in the independent camp below will be in danger. The gods and demons can kill thousands or tens of thousands of people with a random strike. Thinking of this, Suchen said to Yun Feiyan, let all races start preparing enough short-distance teleportation arrays to connect to Dragon City. It would be best if the 9 million people on the battlefield could all retreat to Dragon City within 10 seconds when the retreat order is given. Retreat? Yun Feiyan was shocked. Now the 2 camps are fighting, and the free and independent camp still has the upper hand, killing countless demigod-level demons. Why are they suddenly preparing to retreat? But Yun Feiyan trusts Suchen very much. He immediately nodded and issued orders to commanders at all levels to build short-distance teleportation arrays. However, the atmosphere on the live broadcast platform was a bit depressing because almost all commentators and most of the players supported the 6 realm camp, which had a greater chance of winning. Now I see that the 3,000 semi-god level monsters summoned by the Six Realms camp were killed by the free and independent camp until they were as weak as blood gourds and had no power to parry. Of course, these explanations are about building up other people's ambitions and destroying one's own prestige. The members would definitely not do it. One by one, they vowed, "Don't worry, everyone, this is just a tactic used by our Six Realms camp to lure the enemy. It won't be long before our real high-end combat power will appear." Good. Just dispatching the lowest-end knight captain, all the high-end combat forces of the independent camp were mobilized. I think that when the Six Realm camp launches its real combat power, the independent camp will not be able to hold on for 10 minutes. Haha, our troops alone have the same strength as the Judgment Army, as many as 3.6 million. If all of them were sacrificed to summon true god-level gods and demons, haha, I'm afraid the entire continent would fall apart. Don't forget there are thousands of elders from various religions. They are the real high-end combat power in the Six Realms, and they can summon powerful men who are at the level of generals and gods. I don't think there's any need to go to such trouble. Just let the holy son of the first religion, the prime minister, or the great elder take action to sacrifice and summon the Lord God to come. No matter what the independent camp or king's killing god is, with one slap, everything will be quiet. Ha 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 ha. Well said. That's why the name of our live broadcast room is Six Realms Must Win. This is the general trend. Online games, I really don't want to have unlimited fusion. Author, 7 years. Chapter 400. Just when the 3,000 semi-god level demons in the Six Realms camp were about to be destroyed, the third wave of horn sounds. This time the Six Realms camp gave the War Overlord and others an order to once again dispatch 50 million players to attack the independent camp. After receiving this order, the faces of the War Overlord and others turned black. 30 million, then 30 million, and now 50 million. In this way, they will let hundreds of millions of players face the merciless bombardment of artillery barrages from the independent camp. This is murder, Alexander growled with a dark face. Blood Realm space, how many lives must be lost before it can be activated? Do we have to kill all of our more than 200 million players? Kuroda, the deepest man in the city, couldn't help complaining at this time. The War Overlord's face was uncertain. After thinking about it, he waved his hand and said, "Let those Z Country Guild players go to the battlefield. Don't they really want to participate in our war? Let them go now. The first batch of 50 million people must arrive on the battlefield within 1 minute." The order of the War Overlord made Alexander and others' eyes light up. That's right. It's better to let those disobedient Z Country guys die. Right? The Free and Independent Camp was originally formed by the 3 major guilds of King's Landing and Dragon City in the Z Country service area. Total War Z Country players must pay the due price and sacrifice in order to gain the qualification to be on an equal footing with us. Soon, the War Overlord's order spread to all the major guilds in Country Z. Finally, very magically, it was gathered in the hands of Yun Fi Ian. Well, even if the War Overlord wants to break his head, he probably can't figure out why he gave the Six Realms camp the orders given by players in Country Z will eventually reach the hands of the commander-in-chief of a hostile independent camp. Yun Fi Ian serves as the bridge between the government of Country Z and Suchen. In Suchen's view, it is very natural that such an order comes into her hands. After all, among the details discussed by Mr. Yun and him during the day, there was the issue of Yun Fi Ian as the commander-in-chief of the independent camp and the Z Country. And in the end both parties were very happy to confirm the appointment. After watching the War Overlords after giving the order, Yun Fi Ian asked Suchen with a smile, "Look at this, how should we respond?" Suchen smiled and said, "Let the major guilds return to the war hegemony, just say that liberalism is now prevalent in the world, and it is difficult to lead the team when people's hearts are scattered. The Z country service area can gather up to 100,000 people in 1 minute and immediately go to the battlefield. The next 50 million are expected to arrive on the battlefield in 10 hours. Please wait patiently. Yun Fei Beimei rolled her eyes at him bad. Immediately, I brought Suchen's original words to the heads of the major guilds in Country Z. When the war overlord saw these replies, his face almost became angry. Fuck. Alexander and others saw that the war overlord looked wrong and asked about the situation. After learning the reply from the guild of Country Z, everyone was so angry that they cursed. 100,000 troops, 10 hours. By the time 50 million of them come over, the daylilies will be cold. What a liberal trend. Is it difficult to lead a team? These damn Z country guys are clearly trying to push the envelope and not do anything. How abominable. I think we should simply isolate the service area of Country Z and kick the players of Country Z out of the Six Realms camp. Victory in the war, don't even give them shit to eat. The war overlord said with a gloomy face. It's useless to talk more. The orders of the elders of each religion must be implemented. If the order is passed down, 50 million people will be divided and attack immediately. The leader of the Viking Guild said with a heartbroken face. 50 million, in total, 110 million have been dispatched, which has already used the strength of our main battle players. Throwing it into the flesh and blood mill of the blood domain space is too much. Not worth it anymore. Alas, even if it's not worth it, I have to bite the bullet and keep doing it. There is no turning back in the all-out war. Only when you are willing to give up your children can you trap the wolf. This time, it took players from the Six Realms camp a full 15 minutes to teleport 50 million people from major cities. Like a tide in the sky, they rushed towards the continuous artillery barrage of the independent camp in the distance. Even if there were with all kinds of bonuses and compensation guaranteed by the major guilds, these 50 million players who knew they were going to die still went to the cemetery composed of artillery barrages reluctantly and unwillingly. You know, the previous two waves combined out of a total of 60 million people, only 10 million have died so far, and there are still 50 million lingering on the edge of the barrage, refusing to commit suicide. After all, who doesn't want to live to the end and get more contribution points to exchange for advanced equipment and skill books? The little bonus and compensation given by the guild can't even afford a gold equipment. These players who have successfully changed jobs for the second time are all eager to exchange for the epic, legendary, holy equipment, and skill books in the contribution point rankings. The situation where 100 million players are lingering and refusing to die is not only caused by the NPC forces in the Six Realms camp, but also by Suchen when he uses the Solomon crystal ball. Damn, if you keep going like this, when will you be able to kill enough people to establish a blood space? If Holy Son Douglas and others know what Suchen is thinking now, they will definitely become their confidants. On the 5 tribes of the independent camp, under Yun Feiyan's order, a large number of temporary short-distance teleportation arrays have been constructed. In other words, there are 9 million people in the independent camp, and they can retreat at any time. Now they are waiting for the trillions of experience points from the Six Realm camp. Ah no, millions of gods and demons have come to the world. Ying, start the space transmission device, let's add some firewood and fuel to them. Suchen took out 20 spring father of bombs and communicated with Ying Dao with his mind. He roughly traced the area where 100 million players are distributed on the projection map with his hand. Well, the damage range of a father of bombs is a radius of 50 kilometers. Circle. Only 5 are enough to cover the entire area. Buzz. 10 seconds later. Time and Space Fortress immediately teleports to the player area of the 6 northern camps. 20 to 30 million people shuffled along for tens of kilometers wide and hundreds of kilometers long. Then they stopped in front of the independent camp's rapid-fire artillery barrage with a tacit understanding. Suchen shook his head, feeling contemptuous in his heart. The ghost guy just takes his time in doing things, and even his death is so unpleasant. At the moment, facing the center of these people, he whistled and kicked down a spring, father of bombs. This thing is only 1 meter long and only 20 centimeters in diameter. On a battlefield with tens of millions of people and thousands of square kilometers, it is not even a hair. So it didn't attract anyone's attention. After a long sharp roar, the bomb fell to the ground, killing a Viking Guild's main player. It frightened other people around. What the hell? How could something like this fall from the sky? Looks like a bomb. The system prompts that it cannot be picked up. Who dropped it? Wait, will this thing explode? In the time and space fortress, Suchen asked Yingying to activate the teleportation device and go to the next bombing point. With the thought in his mind, the holy level spring, father of bombs that hit the ground exploded with a bang.